Let's check in with Bob Davis and find out. How you doing, Bob?
I'm dry. I'm good. Thank
You're
you.
dry. You're good. Okay.
So
Welcome.
anyway, thank you. Thanks for having me in
Good to
today.
have
Boy,
you back.
I tell you what, that Adam Casillas, he does. He could talk for an hour, and he would not cover everything that he does. He is
could.
one of those guys in our community that just does the do all the time.
He does, and he's always out there. If anybody really was aware of how much time he donates to nonprofits, it is insane the amount of time that guy does. So, really, somebody that we have to admire and be grateful that he's in our community.
Yeah, I agree. He is someone that if anybody listening today knows of a younger person, that is in my case somebody under the age of 50, that wants to, those are all the young people, if they want to learn how to work in a community, I would trail Adam Casillas. That's
Yeah.
what I would do with his permission. I wouldn't just trail him.
Yeah,
I was
that'd be
going to say,
kinda
don't stalk
creepy.
him because I believe, Graciela, his sister is a black belt in I forget what.
Oh, she's in some martial arts hall of fame.
That's exactly it, and she
Yeah.
trains her family. So don't trail Adam too closely.
Yeah, no, but I would definitely ask his permission and hang with him when you could.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He is.
Hey, my NMLS number is 249185. Even before,
Thank you, Bob.
yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Never do business with an unlicensed person in their field of endeavor. It'll set you up for failure.
It will. Every time. So a lot of people are talking about buying houses and stop paying rent because rents are going up. Rents are almost to the point where it's a mortgage payment. So how do people plan for wealth?
You know, this I put out a video on a Financial Friday yesterday, and we talked about it there. Spend less. I know
Spend
that's
less.
spend less, because what happens is you nickel and dime yourself into a position of poverty. Now, most of us have clothes, we have a home, we have a car, we have a job, we have things, right? But if you were to take a look at those things, and I'm not being, autistic. I'm not trying to be, I am on the level, but that's a whole different day. The whole thing about spending money is, what is your plan? And people don't want to do a plan because it takes work.
Well, it's scary.
What happens if I fail? You're going to fail. Here, I'm going to give you permission. You're going to fail daily, probably hourly. I do. So the direct answer to your question is, setting up for wealth doesn't mean money. Now, I just turned somebody's head sideways that's listening to us this morning. It doesn't mean money. When I met my wife, I was the wealthiest man in the universe because I hadn't had a relationship with a woman for years. I just didn't need money. And then money came and it fell in my lap. Does that mean that I met my wife and fell in love with my wife and that's how I got money? No, because she didn't have enough, but we're still working. The bottom line is we have to know how to do life. And most of us, of course, us in the studio today, we all know life. We've been trained well. At least Rosanda's parents trained her well.
They tried.
I don't know. I'm a spender.
Well, the good news is, how do you create wealth? You have to know what you want. There's an old Zig Ziglar phrase that I love. If you don't set a goal, you're bound and determined to hit it. Well, that means you're not going to get anywhere. So pick something. My first suggestion to somebody, whether you're a multimillionaire or you haven't got two nickels to rub together, plan a day off. Don't do work. Don't go do something. Don't go do the laundry. And I'll bet you you will fail for weeks before you can finally get a day off. Now, what does that have to do with mortgage? Because I work for First Bank. We are in the lending people money business. But if you don't have in your heart the ability to understand what you want It doesn't matter what we have for sale. You guys, before we had this segment of the show, talked about how rents are going up. And there are certain properties that the rents can go up any amount the landlord wants to, and it's legal. Well, it's their property. But at the same time, would you like to be in the position of being able to increase your income every year simply by the change of a contract? Yes. So I want to morph your question for just a moment.
Okay.
And that is, wealth is not created by money. Wealth is created by your opinion of what your life is. But let's talk about money and real estate for just a moment. If you have an income of, say, $140,000 a year, most people have not saved enough money to buy a home, even though they're making a lot of money. We have plans and structures for loan programs to help people if they only have $15,000 or $16,000, but they're making that kind of good money. There's a way to buy a home now that we didn't have even 2 months ago. And what I'm going to ask people to do is go to bobthelender.com and reach out to me, and I will have a discussion with you over the phone and tell you how that works. I would say that probably a third of all the people that want to buy a home right now would qualify for that program. It's not a first-time homebuyer program. It doesn't cost extra because most first-time homebuyer programs have a higher interest rate because there's support. So wealth, big deal, but remember, it's never about the money first. The money always follows.
So you're saying you have a program for $15,000, you could buy a house.
Yep. Let me give you the top line. Most buyers don't have the 3 to 5% down that is needed, plus the closing charges.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we match that with people who are not going to live in your house, but they're going to own the house with you. For the purpose of today, that's where I'm going to stop that part of it, because the requirements of the person not living in the house and the requirements of the people living in the house are very specific. And if you want to see Tom Spence's eyes roll, you can listen to me talk about underwriting guidelines. And we don't want to lose Tom because he's got all of his fingers on all the buttons. So it's really important to know that this is not a tickler to see if anybody will call. It's a matter of it's a new program. I'm calling it First Choice. And the First Choice program is something that we can specifically design for about a third. My guess is about a third of the first-time buyers out there.
Okay.
But you don't have to be a first-time buyer. You can own another house already, too.
Okay. That sounds very interesting. And I think people will call to check in on that. Is it possible to outsave inflation?
It is my opinion that no is the answer. Let's use that same couple, three people that are making $140,000 a year. If they're saving $60,000 a year, they will be able to outsave inflation. But the fact of the matter is, because of the term leverage, that is to say, if you borrow $100,000 on a $120,000 house, you don't have to put up the first $100,000. You only have to put up the $20,000, which means you're making a profit on the equity on the whole thing, even though you only put up part of the money. Consequently, if you ask anybody who bought a house 2 years ago in 2021, ask them what the value of their home is now. It's higher. They've probably, if they put a small down payment, they probably doubled their money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the beginning of wealth. Selling that home, pocketing the money, going back to work is not creating wealth. It's a matter of going right back to what you asked me earlier. What is your goal? Why are you doing what you're doing? I have some people in my life who I love dearly, and they hate the word goal. No, so let's use a different phrase. What do you want to do? Not even where do you want to be in 15 years? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And most people don't. Most people say, I don't know. And at least that's an honest start. And we're here to help you. First Bank will take time to sit with you and make sure that you get the facts, because we're truly not interested in selling you a thing. We don't want you to get a mortgage. We don't want you to get a car loan. We don't want you to do anything that you don't want to do. But most people don't know how to do it or what they want to do. So we just help facilitate their ideas.
That's pretty interesting. You know, listening to you talk, and you've been on the show regularly for, well, almost since we began. I kind of get the impression that being a mortgage lender, you almost got to be a part-time psychiatrist also, because you hear a lot of people's garbage, and you got to help them work through problems. And
But that's also why you want to work with someone who's licensed.
yes,
Because you don't want to be that vulnerable in front of somebody that's going to, one, judge you, and two, take advantage of you.
and that's where I was leading, is you want to work with somebody that's compassionate, like Bob Davis.
Well, that's very kind of you to say that. Thank you.
Well, I know that, one of the things that people are always asking us is, who is our go-to anything? And we always say that it's just like Adam said, it's about relationships. So it's not, we don't push anybody in particular, but we do have people that we know that when the time comes for us to need services, we would naturally be reaching out to. So keep that in mind. Again, relationships matter.
For sure.
They do. Okay, another question. Interest rates continue to climb, and despite the interest rates continuing to climb, home prices are also continuing to climb.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. So why even try to buy a home now?
You know what? The contrarian theory, if you've never heard that before, write it down. It starts with a C, ends with an N. Contrarian. Do what others are not doing. So right now, for example, if everybody is going out to buy a new car, I'm making this up. I don't know
I love
this.
it.
If people are out buying a new car, don't do that. Just try yourself. I'm a guy that's on the road a lot. I know where most of the good drive-thrus are. I also know where most of the bad drive-thrus are, because I've been there. Do what others are not doing. So what would that be right now? Are you saving any money? Are you saving $5 a week out of your paycheck? Are you saving yourself a little bit of time? Remember I mentioned earlier? Take a day off. Don't do laundry. Don't do dishes. Don't go take care of somebody. Don't go shopping. Take yourself for an entire day. And I will tell you from personal experience, that's tough to do, because you always want to do one more thing. But your brain doesn't dig that. So being contrarian means, why would I even want to buy a home now? Because not very many people are. There is approximately 17% of the people that were buying homes 5 years ago buying homes today. That means less than 1 out of 5. Does that mean that you're going to get a screaming deal? Well, by today's standards, are you kidding me? There is no screaming deal. The screaming deal is your rent's not going up next year. The screaming deal is you might actually save a little bit of money on taxes. Check with your tax person. Don't trust me on a tax thing. But the fact is, if you mow your own yard, if you prune your own plants on your own patio in your condo, maybe that day off is going to have more value for you, and maybe you're going to even be happier than you already are right now. I'm not anybody that knows me knows I'm not a guy that makes you want to feel good, because I feel like if you don't hear the truth, then when you find out you've been lied to, that stinks. So let's get to it, guys. The contrarian view is, you may not buy a house now. You may not buy a house for 5 years. But if you know what you want and we can help you facilitate getting the information, the question changes from, why would I even try, to, well, I just need to get that done, whatever that is. But it's as individual as it is for you as it is for the next person.
Okay. Final question. Where's First Wednesday this month in November?
I am so excited. First Wednesday, which, by the way, all the women already know that it's the first Wednesday of the month. All the men have to look at the calendar, except for Tom because he already looked at the calendar. I'm picking on you today, brother.
He's not listening.
Is the 1st of November, the day after Halloween. And we are going to be at, drum roll please, DW's Country Cafe,
Oh,
right down the street in Montalvo.
I haven't been to DW's since, man, they moved.
I've never been there.
Well, I will tell you, they have the Ortega roast beef sandwich that is
What?
to die for. Oh, my heavens. They have brand new owners. I went in there this past week, did not know that that was the day that they took ownership of the restaurant. It's Ken Wallace and Sylvia Wallace. She is an escrow officer here locally. He's a realtor locally. And they picked up this restaurant, and I am so excited because I love their breakfasts.
Oh, yeah, they've always had great breakfasts
Oh,
there.
man. So we're going to have it there. He's closing down the restaurant just for First Wednesday.
Wow.
And we're going to be supporting Epic Leadership Center, which I encourage people to Google Epic Leadership Center in Ventura. All I'm going to say is for today, they are something else. They do things with children and with high-risk communities that, and they do it for free.
Awesome.
Well,
They're-
that's something
they're-
we can get
that's something we
behind.
could support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're great. They are really great. So First Wednesday, thank you for asking. I do have to say that the multiple of sponsors who literally call me up and say, we want to sponsor. And then they ask the question, by the way, who is the beneficiary this month? Most of this is from the real estate community. So if anybody listening today has a professional realtor or somebody in the real estate industry that you care about, go to that person and say thank you, because they probably have a hand in raising the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month that is raised for these different nonprofits. Because of the real estate community brings friends. But if it wasn't for the real estate community, I'm specifically talking about realtors, escrow, title people, the pest control companies, all those different services, they bring it and they make it wonderful.
Awesome. Well, why don't you tell everybody how they could get in touch with you, Bob?
Well, thank you. My web address is bobthelender.com, and on there is my phone number, 805-658-7435. I still feel funny about saying 805. But the bottom line is I'm at the corner of Victoria and Telephone Road at First Bank, and we'd love you to come in and have a cup of coffee, because we do.
Awesome. Yeah, I know they got that coffee maker right out in front of, right by the front door. Thanks for coming in, Bob.
Thank you.